Hi everyone, and welcome to Classical Singing Made Simple. My name is Maddie Hendricks, and I'm a classically trained coloratura soprano, making classical singing more simple, interesting, and exciting for everyone. Today, we are talking about one of the most, I think, misunderstood concepts in the singing world, specifically, might I say, the classical singing world, and that is about projection. Singing out, singing, quote, louder. And as a young singer, I interpreted more sound as more effort, like more body effort, right? I had to do more. Specifically was forcing, over singing, right? Like pressing up chest voice, adding more air, right? Lifting the chin, tightening the jaw, all of these things that, like, trying to sound bigger, more powerful. But healthy singing, healthy projection is not yelling. Projection is actually about efficiency. And I personally love the way my current teacher explains this concept. So think about volume in the physical sense. If something has more volume, it takes up more space, right? So one of the ideas I'd like to think about is volume, and that in the physical, like scientific sense, like it makes so much sense in regards to singing. So what happens when sometimes we get nervous and we try to like project, right, like sing out more. I remember as a young singer, I would just collapse my space in the back of my neck. My shoulders would start tightening, raising up, and I would pull my tongue back, and all of these things to try to just like get the sound out and like squeeze the sound out and get more. And my rib cage would collapse. It's actually a really big thing that would happen. And that creates pressed and a trapped sound. So I felt like I was working really hard, but the sound actually traveled less. So I needed to work to get to a freer setup. And I was like, how do I do this? So it was about reimagining this. So thinking about volume as taking up space, right? So my ribs stay more open and buoyant as I'm singing. My neck stays freer as I'm singing. The inside of my throat feels less squeezed and more open, kind of like a yawn. This is specifically for classical singing. And the sound has somewhere to go. And so suddenly the voice carries better, often with less physical effort. Now, that's one of the truly like the coolest things about classical technique is a well-balanced operatic sound actually feels so efficient, not lazy. There's definitely muscular involvement, specifically in the lower body, specifically with breath support, but it is not brute force. It is not pushing. It is not screaming. It's not yelling. And then there's another huge piece of projection, and that is ring, or what classical singers often call squillo, or that bright, focused resonance that helps the sound carry over the orchestra. This we can describe as like vocal brilliance, brightness, resonance, ring. And nope, this is also not screaming. Not some of the most carrying voices I've ever heard were not the biggest voices in the room. They just had incredible resonance, and their bodies were working efficiently. So the sound had this vibrant ring or shimmer and that's what helped it carry so beautifully in the room, in a big hall across an orchestra. And this balance of the dark, quote, darkness, right, the warmth, the openness, and the brightness, the ring, the shimmer, the brilliance, right, is chiaroscuro in classical singing. It's what we call classical singing. It's not overly dark and it's not overly bright. It's a balance of both. And that is part of the secret sauce to great classical singing, my friends. To being able to sing over an orchestra, to project without electronic amplification, without damaging the voice. I used to think, like, oh my gosh, like, don't opera singers, like, don't they hurt their voices? I think actually I heard that one time, and I was like, oh gosh, well, that sounds scary. That doesn't sound good. But no, healthy operatic singing is some of the most beautiful, efficient singing and healthiest singing you'll ever hear. And even if you have a smaller, lighter voice like myself, it's still possible. You can still be heard over an orchestra, and that's how it's done, balancing the dark and the bright sounds and having efficient breath coordination, among other things. Now, this is what truly blows my mind to this day about classical singing. This is what I love, what I do. Truly, truly, truly. And now here's the emotional side of this conversation. Sometimes when singers say, I can't project, what they really mean is, I'm afraid to let people hear my actual voice. And that is such a common experience, I think. Singing feels vulnerable, right? Singing is one of the most vulnerable and like personal and like precious things we have and we can do. And sometimes sharing our instrument is a really vulnerable, scary thing because it's literally inside us. So especially in public, especially in performances. So just a quick story. I taught a recent masterclass, and one of my icebreakers in my class was, where and when do you sing the most? And most people said, when no one's around. When no one's around, when I'm at home by myself and when no one can hear me. Isn't that so interesting? Like this gift, this voice that's like meant to be shared, we are afraid to share it. And that's just really sad. So a lot of singers develop these protective habits, like holding back and over darkening and creating this artificial sound and singing heavy, right? All these things that kind of impede projection, right? And then sometimes we push, we panic. But projection is not about aggression. Healthy projection usually feels so free and clear and easy. And, it also takes courage too, and knowing that you're in a safe space to share your voice. This is why good vocal training matters so much, because the goal is not how loud can I sing, how, loud and big can I sing, it's how efficiently can I sing, can my voice resonate and work. And the efficiency is what gets the carrying power and the volume